In this new tutorial series, I'm going to show you how to create a dynamic web page. And before we get started, I want to go over like the theory behind it so you guys could apply this situation or this concept to different things you want to program for different web pages. And basically what we're going to start off with is defining what a dynamic web page is. So usually a web page is very static. It's just, well, not nowadays, but back before we had dynamic web pages, there were very static pages, meaning they don't change when a user clicks on a certain item. So let's say we have a web page and there's different links, or actually we have different items. Like maybe you're at an e-commerce page and these are like shirts or something. And basically, this when you click on this button or this link, it transfers you to another page, and it creates a web page for you that describes this specific item. So basically, the traditional way was to create an individual web page for each individual item, which is quite redundant, especially when you have a lot of items. So to reduce that amount of work is simply have a dynamic web page build itself that is specific to each item. So instead of having 4 different web pages as shown here, we could have one and have that one page change as a person clicks on a different item. So the more to the programming side of this, if you could understand what a function is, then we can actually start programming this. So a function has an input. So we have an input and it goes into a function, or sometimes these are called parameters. It depends how you learn it or where you learned it, I don't know. And you have something coming out. So an input would be like a user request, such as clicking on an item or clicking on a certain item or ID, or have a search query or a filter or something. And then that input that the user puts in to your web page or any kind of search box or click, whatever you want to call it, it does something to it. In this case, we'll be building a dynamic web page using that information. And we're going to use that known information to output a new web page that controls what the user sees based on what he or she pushed or clicked or whatever. So that's the very basic concept. We're going to treat the web page itself as a function, not necessarily a traditional function that's used in programming, but we're going to treat the function as the web page. And that very concept can be used across different things in web development. So once you know that, then we're going to go through the setup of how these tutorials are going to be run. So in the first tutorial, or the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up the thing. So we're going to go through databases. I'm not going to build databases, but I'm going to show you what I've set up for this tutorial. Maybe the images, how they're defined, how we're going to pull them. And then we have database connection. And I think that's going to be it for the setup. I don't think there's anything extra. And then the following tutorial, we're going to go through the HTML, which is pretty self-explanatory, then the CSS, and then the final video, which is going to be the end of the series. We're going to go through the PHP. So that's where all this is going to come into play. All this. All right here. We're going to put this into PHP and we're going to create a dynamic web page. We're going to use mostly Echo. And I know that may be outdated possibly. I'm not too sure. But you know, this is the way I do it and it seems to work fine. There's probably other ways to do it, such as Angular or any kind of or React.js or anything like that. That's a more modern way of doing things. Unfortunately, I do not know those web frameworks. So I would be teaching that, but you know, this is the way I know how to do it now. So that's what we're gonna do.